This video is just an overview of the whole cat tree in the backyard and the back lanai I have here. It's a TV and I got some junk around. I'm sorry it hasn't got all cleaned up. But this is a main cat tree that they can get up in. This is where Anubis sits, where he's got a heating pad when it's really cold out, but he lives out here. And they can go up and walk across this little plank, and there's another cat tree even they can run up. And a lot of this mainly is to help them get away from the dog when the dog's chasing them. But ultimately there's an opening here in the screen to the first tunnel that we built, and this is kind of crappy at this point. It's got a lot of seams that I've tied up with string only so I have access in there, because they puke, they do whatever they do in here, and sometimes I need access. But it mainly needed access originally because when I built it I just overlapped this screen for the walking area, and I noticed that they're having a hard time walking out sometimes, but I wanted to put in the indoor-outdoor carpet, and it was a lot easier when I was able to cut an opening, get in there and put the indoor-outdoor carpet, so they're able to walk more easily. And then I just tried to hot glue it in places at the time. This was actually built with a metal screen. I guess it's a chicken wire. It's got a plastic coating on it somehow, but what I never knew at the time was, and I don't know if you can see it up close here, this one right here, you can see that wherever the plastic breaks, it exposes the metal and that starts to rust. And that's the major problem here, because you can see it's happening in a bunch of different places. And where this was actually a basket up there in the cat tree originally, the cat's laid in there and drooped down, it was actually starting to break. And the indoor-outdoor carpet I put in there started drooping into the bottom section. But ultimately all this is really done in place with is I got these stainless steel cables I run from the side of the house over to give it some tension. This was originally done because I had a shade sail back here and a seating area with a fire pit that's now behind me, but we since moved that and it's no longer needed. But this structure is established with these steel cables and anchored with this one back here, you know, just to keep it, because when during high winds, remember we get some winds of 50-60 miles an hour here, these things can sway back and forth quite a bit. And I wanted a structure originally in this design to be as lightweight as possible but strong. This metal, or these metal rings, are actually for crafting, or from crafting wreaths. You know how you do those wreaths for Christmas on your front door? They actually sell these things at the dollar store or Walmart for $1 and change each, but they have the same problem. They're a steel or some kind of metal that is painted, and when the paint wears off they start to rust. And these were to help maintain the shape, so when the cat's weight is on the walkway they wouldn't collapse around them. Everything else is zip tied together to give it its shape. Some of it worked better than others. It was a little bit difficult to do turns and corners and stuff, but it worked out overall well. This has been up for a year, and so this is the first attempt just playing with it. The actual cat tree itself, mostly recycled materials except for that original 4x4. These rails are actually from an old data center cabinet that I used to have that we took apart. These 2x4s are just old 2x4s. There's a board up here from our roof when we had the roof rebuilt, kiln dried. That's probably a 40-year-old board up there. But otherwise I've upgraded to this new screen that's plastic, and it's lightweight, it's pretty strong. They haven't figured out a way to cut through it. I'm sure if they were to chew on it they could, but so far the cats have not. This base is actually from a fire, not fire pit, but you know those towers that have propane, and well, I'll show you the base, but I have it. It was given to me by a friend because it was broken and didn't fix it. But this was the top, and that's the center up here that I hammered and shaped into a little place where they could sit on the 2x4s and 4x4 structure. I wanted to do a pyramid shape, but it didn't work out, so it ended up more like a teepee. But this has kind of been an evolution of parts that come together. But it's worked out pretty good. It's good and strong. It's not super strong, I mean, but it's good enough for them. This has actually got 3 levels in it. They walk out of that tunnel onto this little platform that can drop down here, and vice versa. But here we see the new tunnel. The new tunnel is very different. I don't know, I wanted to use this mesh, this plastic mesh, but I wanted to come up with some stuff and some materials that were light and cheap, and you know, stuff that was going to last. And what I've opted for, I found these rings, which are actually macrame rings. And I'll do another video showing how I took those and made them work. But they're made of bamboo. and they're very strong. They work really well. The wood on the bottom here is a 1x4. This is two 8-footers that are joined together with a metal bracket, just scrap metal bracket I had. I used stainless steel screws under here. I'll put a link somewhere. You probably can't see that right now. And then I had some leftover indoor-outdoor carpet, stapled that down. I didn't even bother using stainless steel staples. The regular staples seem to have worked just fine. The rest of this is old 2x4s that I just chopped up for the purpose of creating a couple brackets. The biggest trouble I had overall in putting this together, in fact, was this section here over the door. And that was because this 1x4 started to warp. And the problem with the warping was that this door didn't get the clearance it needed. So I revised that a bit. I could have probably started over with a new 1x4, but I kept pushing forward. I actually put a 2x4 rather. There's a 2x4 lengthwise up here. You can see it's painted a different color green. That's screwed down on edge to keep it straight. And on this side, I originally tried to do a U-channel of aluminum, mainly for the purpose of drainage, so that when it rains, I've already got the 2x4 on that side, so it's not going to drain in the doorway here. But on this side, I wanted to be able to have rain go one way or the other. So this actually is a 1x4. I don't know if you can see it from there at this point, but it's a U-channel, a piece of aluminum U-channel for the purpose, that's screwed down into the side of the 1x4. The other piece across top I used to help space these apart, so that as I put the screen and these other pieces, I could pull tighter without it collapsing or changing shape too much. I originally wanted that piece of U-channel to be on the inside over here, but it didn't work out, so I ended up using it across the top. That works pretty good. I got a piece of plywood here. I learned a couple things in doing this. You could bunch up this and zip tie it together, but that's really all this is a bunch of UV treated zip ties that should last just fine. And this is actually just a piece of plywood, and it's held up there by one bolt, and just the pressure of being against the walls holding it pretty good. But I'll do another video where I show how I put this together. I did buy enough materials to rebuild that other tunnel over there the same way I built this tunnel. So I have another roll of this screening. I have more 1x4s. I have more of these macrame things. But ultimately, this whole project is less than a few $100s. But it's been a work in progress. You know, the screen was probably, I don't know, less than $10 for 25 feet. That's 3 feet long, wide. The macrame pieces, I think I spent less than $30 for all of them. The wood, less than 20 bucks. Staples, 10 bucks, you know, or less than that even. The stainless steel ones are more expensive, but I didn't bother using those here. And that's it. So I'll update more later. I originally wanted to take another tunnel and go out to the dock, but as you could guess, there's a bunch of issues in doing that, so I'll discuss those another time. Alright, that's it for now. I'll update more later.